So I started by cutting a foot in because the piece was asymmetrical. Then I reversed it and rounded it down. Power went out, so continue rounding it down. I'm working with a piece of oak burl here. Power goes out again, so I've moved the camera in a bit. Sanding it down, trying to get a nice finish on it, and I use a wax that gives it a nice shiny finish. Start turning the inside, and almost immediately it tries to escape. Put it back, turn a bit more, go a bit more gently, use the scraper to keep hollowing it out. Power goes out again, continue hollowing. I had to move the lathe here so that I could actually reach into it. Now I'm using a variety of scrapers, just trying to find the right one for the job. Lots of shop's elbow. Continuing to smooth out and refine the walls so that's sort of an even thickness. Gradually work my way in, just smoothing it out. And move the tool rest and get in there with the sandpaper to get rid of the rough edges. Give it a bit of a clean with the cloth and then put some more polish. And finally we remount it to fix up the foot where it tried to escape.
对对对对。转出来啊！好了。来，小伙子，拿下来。你好。这是反着的。啊，都是反着的。
I'll develop the bowl as it unfolds, and I kind of let the wood dictate to me a lot of times what it wants to be. Sometimes I have an idea of what I want to make, but a lot of times the wood doesn't agree, and the wood usually wins. So I've never really tried to sell my work. I've displayed it a few times, and so last year was the first year I was accepted into the Fall Foliage Art Studio Tour, and we did fairly well last year, and I'm looking forward to it again this year on Columbus Day weekend. Well, this piece of wood came from one of the local tree surgeons, and he called me up and asked me if I wanted to come and look at it, and I did, and decided there would be something interesting in there. And it's a large cherry crotch, and knowing that this area right in here is likely to have nice grain and good color, I brought it home and took the chainsaw and halved it up, and there'll still be another half of this to go yet. And there's probably a bowl in there, and there's probably a bowl in there. I started turning probably in about the 8th grade, and moved up here in the early 70s and worked at Gurian Guitars for 10 or 15 years. And there are times when you can see a bit of that experience in my wood turning. This is a soft maple burl. Came out of that tree stump that's outside, and that actually came out of the center of that bowl. So I got 2 pieces out of that particular piece of wood. this piece of wood here will turn, and this will be the bottom of the bowl. And this is cherry. Came from that cherry log out front. Well, the bottom's pretty much determined, and the rim is pretty much determined. And at this point, I'll just clean up the bottom a little more and turn it around and start hollowing out the inside. Well, I turned the outside first, and with that piece of wood, kicked around under the lathe for like 2 years trying to figure out what to do with it. This is one where you ask when the wood talks to me. And normally what I do is I slice off a good solid section and turn that. Well, this one didn't have a solid section in it. And so I kicked it around for a couple of years, and finally I decided, you know what, I'm just going to put the whole thing on the lathe and see what happens.
Wood turning is both craft and art. The craft aspects are the technical parts of doing the turning, which includes a lot of effort in figuring out how to sharpen the chisels exactly, how to mount the wood between the headstock and the tailstock of the lathe, and what speed the lathe should be at, etc. The art comes from the shaping. The original shapes actually came from an experience which I had way back in the 60s when I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Abuja, Nigeria. I was there primarily as a high school teacher, but Abuja was the home of a pottery which was set up by a very well-known British potter by the name of Michael Cardew, who, along with Bernard Leach, were the two eminent potters from Britain. I spent many, many days volunteering as a not particularly good potter at the Abuja pottery, but I can recall vividly the many discussions which I had with Michael Cardew and his successor, Seamus O'Brien, focusing on the design of pottery. Pottery is just the opposite from wood turning, in that to make a pot, you begin with a blob of clay and you shape it to become a larger object, generally with thin walls. For wood turning, however, you begin with a big chunk of wood which is mounted between the centers of the lathe, and with the chisels you remove much of the wood. You form the shape from the outside, And in fact, for the hollow vessels, for the vases, they are totally hollow on the inside. For the technique that I use, I intentionally include bark. I intentionally include the split surfaces from the wood splitter. The wood which I use literally comes from the wood pile. And my kids actually frequently make fun of me because we do burn wood in the family room in the wintertime. And the kids often comment that Dad will evaluate and caress and feel each piece of wood prior to putting it into the wood stove to be making sure that it's not something for a lamp or a vase. I was delighted to have been invited by Richard Whitney and his wife Sandy Sherman, who are good friends of ours here in Stoddard, to be participating with them at their studio this coming Columbus Day weekend. They are very well-known artists in the area, and I sort of feel they're a different league and higher caliber artists than I am, but I'm truly delighted to have been invited to be showing my things in their studio.